Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button, leave a comment, hit like. All those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music. Just like this, I wanted to talk about the difference between fair weather fans and real fans and what it means to support your favorite artist. I've gotten a lot of comments on this back and forth from people who think I'm either not supporting or I'm supporting too much or just whatever, some weird things. I've got some examples to give you on that sort of stuff. And I want to start off and talk about, some of our favorite big major artists have released new albums this year. And it's been really surprising the kind of comments that I've got about these albums and the bands and so forth. So artists like, AC/DC put out their brand new album, Power Up. Queen finally put something out with Adam Lambert. It's a live album, not a studio, but they finally released material after nearly 10 years together. Deep Purple has put out another album. We got Bon Jovi, 2020. They've put out a brand new album this year. And after nearly 20 years, Blue Oyster Cult has finally put out a brand new album. And so I wanted to talk about those and, again, what it means to be a, quote, real fan. And so all too often I hear people put down an album before they've even listened to it simply because the band itself is not the original members. Or they aren't interested in listening to it because it doesn't sound like the most popular period of that band. And, but to me, all that means is that you are not a fan of the band. You instead are a fan of a style of music that played during a particular part in the band's career. And that if you were a fan of the artist, then you'd be a fan of the person itself. You would be interested in hearing that artist grow. And it's not just about liking a hit song or a particular style of music. Being a fan of the artist, as you know, is about going on the journey with them. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to hit on here about these. And so kicking things off, I want to talk about the latest release from AC/DC. The band is now 45 years old. There's only one original member left, and original member Malcolm Young, who co-wrote most of the material, passed away in 2017. And despite this being a reunion album with 4 core members from their most famous period during Back in Black, for some fans this isn't good enough. One so-called fan left a comment asking if there were, quote, any real fans who were, listening to this, watching the review that I had done on this, because the fans were all saying that this album was really good and some of the best material that the fans had heard from this, great band AC/DC. But apparently any real fan would have been saying that this material was mediocre. This guy thinks that the last great album that AC/DC made was For Those About to Rock in 1981. And everything else after that has been mediocre. So, here's a guy who is, likes only the first 6 years of the band, is stuck in the Bon Scott era, and he's claiming to be the real fan, unlike people like myself, people who have stood by the band through the ups and downs, given a chance to each new release by the band, and is simply excited and thankful to have this new release from a band that we all thought was probably done at the end of the last tour, right? So, what makes a fan? Is it the fact that this person is so steadfast and so held on to one particular thing that he only supports that? Or is it the person who actually says, I'm a fan of the artist and I'm going to go on a journey with this artist and I'm going to give them a chance, and whether or not it's the best album ever, I'm going to enjoy it simply because it is more from my favorite band, right? Next up, we've got Queen plus Adam Lambert and their live release called Live Around the World. So Queen formed 50 years ago in 1970. They've made 15 studio albums with original vocalist Freddie Mercury before his passing. They also made one studio album with Paul Rodgers of Bad Company. This album here is the first full-length recording material with Adam Lambert, despite the fact that they have been together now almost 10 years. And this relationship is an interesting one because you've got two artists coming together from different musical backgrounds. You know, and so you've got fans split among this. You've got fans that are from the rock world, and you've got the fans that are from the pop world, coming from the Adam Lambert side of things. And I get Adam Lambert fans saying to me things like, oh, hey, thanks, you know, for supporting him. You being a rock fan, supporting him, that really means a lot, giving him a chance, etc. And then I get other Adam Lambert fans that are getting mad, saying that I'm taking up Adam Lambert's spotlight by talking about him with Queen, right? Why can't both help one another here in this case? I admit I am not typically a fan of the pop world, but I like what Adam Lambert does, and I think he is the best fit for Queen. But so many Queen fans don't want anything other than Freddie Mercury. And the thing is, the remaining members still have a desire to tour, to play live, even to make new music. And I don't think that simply because Freddie Mercury isn't around, these guys should just fade into the background. I feel like as a fan of the band, you should want to hear the distinct guitar playing that is Brian May, and hear all of that again. And what a better way to do it than having someone as amazing as Adam Lambert front the band, who can actually do what Freddie Mercury did and help carry the band to that level. I'd rather have a band continue moving forward, to never stop, and to continue to produce new things, so that I can continue to grow with the band and experience that musical artist on that journey. And so next up we've got Deep Purple, Whoosh. And this one here is their 21st studio album. The band has been together for 52 years. They formed way back in 1968. Now, drummer Ian Pace is the only original member left in the band. However, they've got three members of their most famous Mark II lineup that recorded the Machine Head album. Of course, that has the most famous single on it, Smoke on the Water. And one comment that was left was that none of the songs on this album, Whoosh, are going to be remembered in 50 years, so that there's no point in them putting this out. And I said, you know, responded to this person, and I said, you know, with that logic and that standard, most people only remember Smoke on the Water. So does that mean everything else Deep Purple has done has not been worthy because nobody remembers anything else in the 52-year career other than Smoke on the Water? Of course, that person had nothing else to say after I posted that. But what was really great were that other fans got involved in this conversation and supported why Deep Purple is still relevant and why it matters that they are still making new albums, and why people, of course, are still interested in it. On a side note, I got a comment from somebody who wasn't happy with how I say the word whoosh. Told me I was pronouncing it wrong. I don't know any other way to say it. I'm going to say whoosh. If there's another way out there, you can let me know. But I found that comment really strange. All right, moving on. Next up, we've got Bon Jovi and their album 2020. This one here has proven to be, I think, the most divisive album of all of 2020 on here, even more so than the AC/DC one. So Bon Jovi forms in 1983. They're now 37 years old. This is their 15th studio album, and it's their first album in 4 years, but it's also the second album without founding guitarist Richie Sambora. And for this album, the subject matter changed, and I think that's why this particular album is so divisive amongst all of its fans. They changed the subject matter, but it made it so that it is a really relevant album to 2020, of course, hence the reason it is called 2020. This is dealing with COVID-19, the murder of George Floyd, mass shootings, the election, and a number of other topics in here, all related to things that have been going on recently. And so-called real fans are claiming that all of this has to do with the fact that Richie Sambora is not part of the band, which is just simply not true. And anyone who's listened to Richie Sambora's 4 solo albums knows that he leans towards the pop world on those releases instead of the rock world. So the fact that this album is a more mellow album and not a straight-on rock album is the fact that I think that it is more fitting of the times and the serious subject matter that Bon Jovi is trying to bring across than the fact that he's trying to make a feel-good rock album. It's about love, romance, rock and roll, things like that are the typical fare of a Bon Jovi album itself. This last year has had such an out of place year amongst all other years, but 2020 itself is just so different than anything else that we have experienced that I think that this album here is capturing that moment in time beautifully. And as a fan of the band, again, I'm willing to go on that journey. I'm willing to try something new with them. Besides the fact that their next album, they will probably return to that straight ahead rock and roll approach with all the lyrical content and everything that we know and we love from past albums and everything. So again, I'm okay with trying something new with them here. But again, I went into this album with a more open mind on it, which allowed me to dive into this and really enjoy it, which again is a benefit of what the musical experience is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about enjoying it. So if you go in closed-minded, thinking I'm not going to like this because it doesn't have all original members, or I've heard that the lyrical content is about something that I don't like, it's not typical to the band, of course you're not going to enjoy it. So, try and be more open-minded going into these things and you will enjoy the music much better, which of course is what all of this is about in the first place. And finally, we've got Blue Oyster Cult, The Symbol Remains. Here's a band that has put out their first new album in 19 years, so nearly 20 years here. And this one I've approached from a little different standpoint. The band themselves formed 53 years ago, 1967. There's only 2 original members left. And so, whereas other albums, I'm being claimed as not a real fan because I liked it too much, all the BOC fans are coming out claiming I'm not a real fan because I didn't glow and rave about this album. And while I'm very much glad to see that the band has returned and making new music, I was and still am very excited for this new release here, and I think that it had flashes of brilliance on it. I chose to be honest about my review, and I pointed out some things that I didn't like on it. I also pointed out the things that I did like about the album too. But again, because I didn't glow about the review, wow, I really angered and upset and made some BOC fans mad. I was not allowed to say that I didn't like the particular heaviness of one track or the breakdown part of another track on here. And instead, I've had to constantly defend myself as a fan, even though I don't find this to be the greatest BOC album ever, right? So it goes both ways on here. You can like it and say you like it, and people are going to think you're not real fans, and you can say it's not my favorite album, and people are going to say, well, you're not a real fan for that. And I think none of that is right. I think you can be a fan and like something, dislike something, and still go on the journey with the band. So sort of in conclusion, wrapping all this up, I would also say that being a real fan does not mean that you cannot speak your mind. It just means be open, be willing to give your favorite artist a chance. Let them explore, let them grow too, just as you are with the band. Every album may not be a masterpiece, but it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it in the meantime. And hopefully these bands are still going to make a few more albums before finally call it a day. I know I'm certainly going to be waiting and excited to get these new releases. And I would just say, remember, it's only rock and roll, right? All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about what makes a real fan. Or if you have an opinion about these fair weather fans out there that only like a particular album or era of a band and they are not fans throughout the careers of these bands. All right. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave me your comments. Let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye.